Once upon a time, there lived a funny clown named Joe, who had a huge passion for writing comedies about one of his favorite things in life, cookies. Joe was determined to write the best cookie comedy of all time, and so he began the journey in search of the sweetest and most hilarious stories to bring his wildest ideas to life. One morning, Joe decided to take a stroll around the city to get some ideas for his cookie comedy. Everywhere he went, he encountered people munching on their favorite treats, which gave him further inspiration. He marveled at a variety of tasty flavors, shapes, and sizes of cookies being sold in every bakery, candy store, and ice cream shop. As Joe explored more and more, he found himself walking into a mysterious kingdom made entirely of cookies. The castle walls were made of gingerbread, and inside there was a giant sugar cookie throne, where an elegant queen, dressed in royal icing, commanded her court of royal bakers. Fascinated by this dreamlike land, Joe vowed to remember it for his upcoming comedy routine. Joe ventured deeper into the kingdom and stumbled upon a small cottage inhabited by a kindly old woman with a tremendous knowledge of all things related to cookies. She delighted in telling him stories of how cookies came from faraway lands, as well as tales of brave adventurers who searched for the rarest and most delicious ingredients for their recipe. Joe was able to pick up many great ideas for his comedy. Next, Joe headed over to a vast dessert palace that was filled with all sorts of edible art pieces. Towering crepes, delicate petite fours, colourful macaroons, and mountains of fresh fruits. Every inch of the room was adorned with intricate decorations made out of chocolate, marshmallows, and sprinkles. Everywhere Joe looked, he was inspired by the sheer creativity of desserts, which gave him lots of great material for his script. After the palace, Joe set out for the local carnival, hoping to enjoy some classic fairground games and foods. On the midway, he stumbled across a cake baking competition, surrounded by a large crowd of kids and adults alike. Everyone present was in awe of the amazing creations and cheered loudly in celebration of the winners. A large red velvet cake shaped like a circus tent and decorated with real cotton candy. To finish off his day in the city, Joe headed to a beloved neighborhood park that was known for its delectable picnic snacks. There, he came across an old-fashioned bake sale full of homemade pies, cupcakes, and yes, even delicious cookies. The wonderfully sweet aromas filled Joe with a new vigor, and soon enough he was off again, imagining all kinds of humorous scenarios for his story. That night, Joe finally returned home, tired but content. With all the wonderful experiences he had gathered throughout the day, he eagerly ran towards his desk and got to work jotting down ideas for his cookie comedy. He crafted several plot lines, wrote down quotes from all the characters he met along the way, and worked hard to perfect his script. Over the next few days, Joe continued to refine his comedy show and created various skits, jokes, and gags that combined everything he experienced during his city tour.
He especially liked the Kingdom of Cookies part, and thus decided to make it the center of his grand performance piece.
Finally, after a few weeks of hard work and creative thinking, Joe was ready to present his masterpiece. A 2-hour comedy show filled with jokes, puns, and quirky performances about the magical world of cookies. As the curtains drew open, the entire audience cheered and clapped in anticipation, which made Joe's heart swell with pride. The show was an instant hit. From the moment the lights went down, Joe had the attention of his audience, hooked with each silly gag and witty quip. Kids and adults alike laughed until their stomachs ached as Joe, so cleverly incorporated his experience from the Cookie Kingdom, the carnival, and the bake sale into his routines. Soon enough, the show finished to thunderous applause and standing ovations. Joe had succeeded in providing both entertainment and education, while also showing everyone the beauty of community and friendship through the art of laughter. In the days that followed, word of Joe's performance spread like wildfire.
People from all around started asking him to repeat his act in their towns, schools, business events and birthday parties.
Everywhere he went, Joe was embraced warmly and thanked for his great work of art. 1 week later, Joe received an invitation from the royal court itself to do a special performance in their castle. After nervously accepting, he prepared a brand new show tailored especially for the king and queen. When the grand day arrived, Joe stepped out onto the grand stage in front of the whole court, including his biggest admirers, the talented baker ladies. It was truly an honor for Joe to be performing for such esteemed guests, and he was determined to give them the best show of his life. With all his talent, wit and charm, he told the timeless stories of how cookies were brought to the kingdom by daring explorers, feathered with jokes, and showcased the greatest talents of the baker ladies. When the curtain closed and the applause died, everyone was speechless at the overwhelming performance they witnessed. Joe was presented with a Medal of Valor and given a lifelong honorary position in the court. From then onward, the court's chefs were always baking something special in honor of Joe's achievements. The success of Joe's first ever comedic performance only increased his ambition to continue making excellent shows. He even started taking on projects that took him outside the kingdom, traveling the world to educate and entertain other audiences with his unique and highly praised portrayal of cookies. Before long, Joe was a true master of the comedy craft. He wrote new material for and appeared in TV commercials, wrote award-winning sketches for theatre adaptations, and even released his own book series of illustrated stories centered around cookie adventures. No matter where Joe went, he was always celebrated and credited for bringing humor and lightheartedness to millions of people. To this day, his reputation still lives on, firmly etching his name in history books as the man who single-handedly revolutionized the comedy genre with the power of sweet. Years later, when asked about his craft, Joe humbly replied, "Cookies weren't just a part of my routine. They were the reason I even had a routine in the first place. They remind us that all of life can be sweet, especially when we open ourselves up to a little bit of silliness and joy."